Hi, we are here to make a video about the infographic. It's a corona 부셔줘. We have divided the infographic into two chapters. The first chapter mainly contains information and theories covering factors such as basic information and definition, history, and considerations. The second chapter focuses mainly on expression and practical use. The order includes the use of infographic, good example, and bad example.
Before the presentation, do you remember seeing the poster on the wall of Osokwan? Yes, all the posters here have one thing in common. It tried to make the information, it was trying to make it as visible as possible, so that people could read it easily and quickly in the fast-moving Osokwan. Here's what's happening in Infographic. In the next slide, I will explain in more detail what infographic is. Infographic is a compound word of information and graphics that make it easier and faster to understand the content by simply and clearly visualizing complex and diverse information and delivering it more effectively. Simplify information in a variety of ways, including graphs and diagrams based on lines or shape to deliver information more intuitively. The main point of infographic design is data visualization. Data visualization is the process of visual representation and delivery of data analysis results so that they can be easily understood. However, data visualization should not be hung on overly functional effects or beautifully expressed. Instead of staying in clear communication, one should make one concentrate and participate. Next page, I will explain the benefits of infographics. First, it is interesting. Generally, image can give visual pressure rather than writing. It can lower the barriers of access for inmates who feel bound with hard and uninteresting information. Second, infographic is easy to understand. Everyone needs to know, but if the content is difficult, it feels boring. But it is delivered through infographics so that it can be easily understood. The third is the memory lasts a long time. People have a very high degree of visual dependence on communication because images are more intuitive than writing in the brain. Infographic can be remembered relatively long. Finally, volunteering pro-defense. Because infographic exists as a memes file, it is easy to share simply on SNS in this mobile age. Therefore, infographic is used well in marketing and promotion. Next, we're gonna learn about infographic types. First, there are a map and chart. Map types contain information with the maps of certain countries or regions and are used for media use, politicians' preference, and the distribution of stories. Diagramming allows all kinds of numerical data to be present in a way that contain information using various tables and graphs. Next is timeline and storytelling. The timeline is method of selecting a topic and showing the history and the development patterns relate to its form of a timeline. Storytelling is a storytelling style that seems to tell a story about events or topics. The following are cartoon and comparative analysis. Cartoon types are used to design infographic related to behavior, occupation, and psychological by utilizing cartoon elements such as characters. Comparative analysis is often used to compare at a glance the characteristics of comparing media, brands, and various products in a way that compares two or more products or concepts.
The components that makes up the infographic. The infographic uses various elements along with the text for a more efficiently way. It has diagram, table, graph, map, pictograms, and illustrations. The photos added below are examples of them. So, how do we design the infographic with these elements? First, you need to focus on the visual. You have to create a design that attracts and understands the viewers. Also, a sympathetic design would make the other person better understand. The second is the visual flow. Humans basically look from top left to bottom right. You need to be aware of that and place the elements in the infographic. It's also better controlling the flow of space and time. Thirdly, simplification is important, which means you should simplify the information by leaving only the information that will have the maximum effect with the least amount. The type of color, typeface, and the number of letters are also included in the simplification. Finally, you should clarify the information you wanted to convey through the infographic. It has to be a clear design that can be understood without letters. And you need to know exactly what is for, how is for, and who is for. Next, I will give you some tips on how to do a good infographic. The first is visual thinking. It's like a mind map to organize your thoughts about things in advance. It will allow you to come up with clear and effective ideas when you want to deliver something. If you practice a lot, you will be able to use surprise in your familiarity. The second is to limit the use of colors. If you do so, that parts will naturally be emphasized and attract people's attention. From now on, we will learn about the history of infographic. The name was recently established, but the concept has long existed. For example, the oldest existing infographic is a Lascaux cave mirror, depicting animals hunted by prehistoric humans. This was the beginning of the official infographic. Then you can see the trace of infography in Egyptian hieroglyphics. Also, the 1786, we can see more clear evidence of infographic. William Playfair visualized data through various graphs in his book. Then, in 1854, Nightingale made a flower-shaped graph of the number of patients. In 1896, Napoleon March was recorded in detail by a French city engineer using infographic. And 1924, Aesop created imaging-oriented book for those who were not educated. The 1931 British subway line will also be an example of infographic. And these days, we live in the big data generation and strive for more efficient information delivery. Infographic is making various advances, changing from image to video. As such, we live in a history and life closely related to infographic. From now on, let's look at the various examples of infographic in Chapter 2.
Next, we are talking about the infographic use cases. Infographic is also actively used advertisements that caught the eye with celebrity surface copy, and is core education that was familiar with manual education. It is also used to prompt safety as a good advantage of delivering information effectively for a short time. Infographic is now expanding into various fields rather than just the need for visual content due to big data. The insight to essentially look at things in the sensitive flow of change is becoming important. First, market infographic. Recently, Heinz used infographic to package new beer. It uses infographic techniques to introduce beer. Gasoline also used infographic to advertise products that could have motors. Advertisements celebrating the 150th anniversary of the product's birth expressed the meaning of the product in numbers after arranging the information with a vertical timeline technique. Second, the American High School Infographic Production Case. Sunset Park High School, a public school in New York, has implemented classes using infographic in its science class this year. Unlike in Korea, infographic was used in class. The students used the laptops provided by the school to design infographic on how to deal with tornadoes. While the teacher in charge of the class walked around the classroom answering questions, the students examined the information and designed the step-by-step measures that could be taken in the event of the tornado. The expected effects of students producing infographic are as follows. First, simultaneously utilize emotional and logical thinking. Second, ability to read and analyze complex information. Third, ability to think, express, and communicate in writing. And fourth, ability to deduce problems. Finally, disaster safety manual central infographic. The most important area in the infographic is the area of disaster safety manuals. Visual messages are more communicative than any other information. Therefore, major advanced countries, including the US, will deliver most of their methods of responding to the crisis through infographic. The biggest feature of the infographic against disaster is the exclusion of ambiguous pictures and ambiguous words. It is necessary to organize the information so that you are familiar with how to respond step by step.
So now we are going to figure out what to do to design a good infographic. Let's look at the 4 factors that make a good infographic. First, good data visualization. Good data visualization means taking even the most complicated much of numbers and turning it into a clear information. It can be a good old pie chart or it can be an intricate work of art. As long as the entire story is good, nobody cares if it took off with a pie chart or an assemblage of multicolored pebbles. Second, good story. Infographic is not a mere assemblage of statistics and facts. This needs to be weaved together to create a story. An infographic is meant to capture a viewer's attention and make them aware of a certain problem. While data visualization leave it up to viewers to draw conclusions, a good infographic uses the copy and facts to nudge the viewers toward a certain conclusion. Third, simplicity. One of the infographic's main purpose is to simplify a certain topic for an audience. With a good infographic, a long and boring story can become a fairly simple and juicy story. Fourth, practical value. Will the viewers learn something new? Can you raise awareness about a specific problem or product? Is the infographic leading the viewers into action? With good infographic examples, the answer to all these questions is yes. Now, let's look at some bad examples of infographic. Clashing color palette, too much text, too much scrolling, and bad visuals. take too much concentration and detailed attention to understand what they are trying to tell us. From 2010 to 11 to 2011 to 12, approximately 7% more nurses were recruited in New South Wales, Australia. However, judging by the graph, viewers would be led to believe that there was a 700% increase in nurses recruited. Looking at the graph, it seems to refer the elements that make up 100%, but the contents is not. At first, it looks total to 143, and it seems that the data was not calculated properly. I think for this kind of data, I had to use something like a listed bar graph. In the future, infographic is expected to expand and differentiate into various business areas as well as education and media. The education-related market to create insufficient infographic experts will also grow. In order to utilize infographic in various business groups, it is important to encounter different type of infographic. The final result is expressed in pictures or videos, but various ideas such as how to communicate and how to use them for business are hidden in each industry.
Thank you for watching our video till the end. We hope it was time for everyone watching this video to learn about infographic. That was Team Corona 부셔줘 presentation. Thank you.